They say the sharpest pain doesn't come from strangers, but from the silence of those you once believed would stand by your side. I've learned the hardest way that a mother's hope can be both her greatest strength and her deepest wound. I spent my 72nd birthday eating by myself. While my family used my money to go on a holiday, it was intended to be a memorable 72nd birthday. Something I hadn't had in years was promised to me: a little happiness, some brightness, and a chance to be appreciated. Once more. I then put on my clothes. I prepared food. I waited, however. The events of that day altered my perspective on everyone and everything in my immediate vicinity. I could be becoming old. I'm not blind, though. Furthermore, I'm not defenseless. I want to thank you for listening to me spill my guts before I start my narrative. Tell me in the comments what time it is and where you are listening from. I enjoy listening to you. Additionally, please click the subscribe button. If you haven't already, you have no idea how much it helps me. Let me now explain what actually transpired. I had spent months anticipating that trip. Back in February, my daughter Monica informed me that they were preparing a unique celebration for my 72nd birthday, a true holiday. She remarked, "A warm place, Mama, just pack your nice outfits. Let us handle the rest." That day, I was so happy that I almost spilled my coffee. I hadn't been any place but the grocery store or church for years. Since my husband's death, I had not visited a beach. Monica dismissed my question regarding the price. "Didn't you work your entire life? This is something you deserve. Let's take care of it after a week." She wanted to use my credit card to reserve the group tickets and lock in the pricing. After a brief moment of hesitation, I trusted my girl. I gave it to them without asking many questions. "We'll travel somewhere in late April or early May." She insisted I inquired about the date. Once again, when April came and went, "We're simply figuring out the time," she added. "It will coincide with your birthday." Exactly, assure me. I trusted her. I even purchased a brand new bag, teal, on sale with the tag still on. I kept it by the front entrance. I took 2 weeks to load it gradually. I spread out the sundress with a sunflower motif, which is my favorite, my sandals from church. I hadn't worn a sun hat for 8 years. I also inserted the handkerchief belonging to my spouse for comfort, only I had the impression that he would be joining us in spirit. However, Monica called the night before my birthday. She sounded as though she was driving in a hurry. "I hate to tell you, Mama, but we're having to postpone the trip a bit," she remarked. My heart fell. "Oh, how long?" "Shortly, a few more weeks. Perhaps we only have a few scheduling issues." "Oh, I see, so at least I'll see you tomorrow for supper." A pause occurred. "Of course," she responded. "I wouldn't miss it. We will definitely stop by." For me, that was plenty. I made an effort to sound unimpressed. Plans do change. After all, life becomes hectic. I told myself it was fine. At least I'd see them. So, on the morning of my 72nd birthday, I woke up early and turned on my gospel playlist. I put on a fresh pot of coffee and started cooking. Fried chicken, yams, macaroni, fresh string beans with smoked turkey. I baked a sweet potato pie from scratch, used real vanilla this time, not the imitation stuff. I even brought out the good china from the top cabinet, the one with the gold trim I only used on holidays. I set the table for 5 me, her husband Samuel, their son Elijah, and maybe Mr. Carter from next door if they decided to bring him a plate. I dressed in the lavender floral dress my husband used to say made me look 10 years younger. I curled my hair, put on a little lipstick. I lit the tall candles I usually save for Easter dinner. The house smelled like love by 5. I was ready by 6. I started to worry by 7. I had reheated everything twice by 8. I stopped checking the window by 9. I was sitting at the table alone. The candles had melted halfway down, the food was cold. My lipstick was smudged. I stared at the empty plates across from me and tried to tell myself, maybe something had come up. Maybe they just lost track of time. Maybe the baby had an emergency. Maybe the car broke down. Maybe the phone died. But I knew nobody was coming. The silence felt heavier with each passing minute, like the walls were leaning in closer, whispering reminders of every time I'd been left behind. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows on the plates, set for a celebration that would never happen, each shadow stretching across the table like the distance between me and my family. I felt my heart pounding, not with hope, but with the dull thud of reality settling in. The air was thick, almost suffocating, as if the room itself was mourning with me. My hand trembled. As I lifted the fork, I couldn't eat much. The food didn't taste the same anymore. I took a few bites, then pushed the plate away and rested my elbows on the table. I stared at the birthday card I had bought for myself last week from the dollar store. It said, "You're still glowing in pink glitter." I thought it was cute when I saw it now. It just felt like a joke. I remembered how I had picked it out, smiling to myself at the glittery letters, thinking how it would brighten the table. But now, the words felt cruel, each sparkle like a tiny shard of glass, reflecting how foolish I'd been to expect anyone else would bring me joy. I cried, then not loudly, just quietly, the kind of crying that slips out of you when you've been holding it in all day. My shoulders shook. I wiped my face with the edge of the tablecloth and sat in the silence, letting it hurt. No one called, no one texted. Not even a happy birthday mama at around 10:30. I wrapped the pie in foil and put everything in the fridge. I blew out the candles. I changed into my nightgown. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the teal suitcase by the door, still packed, still waiting. I turned off the light and laid down slowly, the ache in my knees, a little sharper than usual. I stared at the ceiling fan as it turned the software of the blades, the only sound in the room. I folded my hands over my stomach and whispered, "Maybe they forgot." I tried to believe that, but somewhere deep down, I knew they hadn't forgotten. They just didn't come. The morning after my 72nd birthday, I woke up to a still house, not the peaceful kind of still, the hollow kind. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, staring at the little teal suitcase I had packed and repacked for weeks. The tag still hung from the handle untouched. A part of me still wanted to believe the trip was simply delayed, like Monica said, that it would happen another day, that I just needed to be patient. I went through my usual motions, brushed my teeth, tied my scarf tight, shuffled into the kitchen in my slippers, but everything felt slow, like I was dragging my bones through a dream. I made a cup of tea but didn't drink. I opened the fridge, looked at the pie, closed it again. I didn't have the energy to warm up leftovers. The dishes from last night were still stacked in the sink. I didn't touch them either. I sat on the couch, wrapped in my old knit shawl, the one Samuel gave me before he passed. It smelled faintly like cedar and lavender. I stared at the floor for a long time, listening to the ticking clock on the wall. It was almost noon and still no calls, no texts, not even a sorry. "We missed you, Mama." I held on to that sliver of hope that maybe today they'd reach out. Maybe they got the day wrong. Then I heard a knock, 3 soft taps at the door. I got up slowly and peeked. Through the curtain, it was Mr. Carter, sweet man. He lived 2 doors down, always polite, always checking in on me. His grandmother raised him right. I opened the door. "Hey, Miss M," he said, holding a plastic grocery bag and smiling. "Got you that lemon dish. Soap, you mentioned." "Oh, bless your heart," I said, stepping aside. "Come on in, baby." He walked in and set the bag on the counter. I was about to offer him some tea, but he noticed my phone sitting on the table. "You still having trouble with your apps?" he asked, picking it up. I nodded. "It's been freezing up again. You know how I am with that thing. I press the wrong button and everything disappears." Mr. Carter chuckled. "Let me take a look." He sat down at the table, swiping through the settings. I went back to wiping the counter just to give my hand something to do. Then I heard him pause. "Miss M," he said gently, "did you say your daughter was planning to take you on a trip for your birthday?" I turned toward him slowly. "Yes, she said it was going to be a family vacation, but the night before my birthday she called and said it was postponed." Why? He hesitated, then glanced down at his phone. "I didn't mean to snoop," he said, "but I follow your grandson on Instagram, Elijah." I frowned. "Okay." He flipped the phone around to show me. There was clear as day a beach, white sand, blue water, and in the middle of it, my family, my daughter Monica, her husband Samuel, and Elijah, all wearing matching shirts. That said, Monroe family vacation. They were smiling, tanned, holding fruity drinks, and posing in front of a giant hotel pool. The caption said, "Much needed reset sun with face #Monroe family, no drama, just sunshine." It had been posted the night before on my birthday. I stared at the photo, frozen, my mouth opened, but no words came out. I slowly reached out and took the phone from Mr. Carter's hands. Zooming in, it wasn't just a day trip, it was a full vacation, the kind with resorts and fancy dinners and spa days. I scrolled to the next post. Samuel was twirling in a sundress with a champagne glass. Another showed Monica laughing with a cigar. In her hand, there was even a shot of Elijah showing off his new gold bracelet. I scrolled and scrolled, photo after photo, but no mention of me. Not one. Mr. Carter sat quietly. I could tell he didn't know what to say. I swallowed the lump in my throat and set the phone down gently. A wave of shame washed over me, realizing how blind I had been to the signs. How could I have missed what was right in front of me? The thought that I let myself believe their words so easily made my chest tighten with regret. They told me it was postponed. I whispered, said we'd reschedule, said they'd come by for dinner. I felt the sting in my eyes before the tears came. I blinked fast, hoping to hold them back, but it didn't work. My shoulders trembled. I pressed my hands flat against the table to steady myself. They left me. I said they really left me. Mr. Carter got up and knelt beside me, his voice soft. I'm so sorry, Miss M thought you knew. If I had known, it's not your fault, baby. I said, wiping my cheeks, it's mine for believing them. He didn't argue. He just sat with me. That's what made it worse. How someone who didn't owe me a thing could sit with me in my hurt, while the ones I raised, clothed, fed left me out. Like I was nothing after he left. I sat in silence for a while. Then something in me stirred. I need to know the full truth. I turned on my old computer and logged into my email. I hadn't checked it in weeks. Monica always told me not to worry about it, said she handled all the bills and bookings through it, but I remembered one password, and that was enough. I typed in reservation in the search bar. The first result made my heart stop. An email from a luxury resort in Key West. Booking confirmation, full week, ocean view suite, spa, add-ons, all paid in advance, billing address. Margaret and Cole credit card, mine. The same card Monica asked to hold for emergencies last month. I stared at the screen, hands shaking, my stomach twisted. They didn't just forget me. They used me. They used my money, lied to my face, took the vacation I was promised, toasted drinks to a new chapter, and left me to cry over cold pie. I shut the laptop, pushed my chair back, and stood up. I walked to the mirror in the hallway and looked at myself. Not a fragile old woman, a mother who had been taken for granted, a woman who had been silent too long, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something shift inside me. Not bitterness, not hate. Just clarity. After I saw the booking email, something in me went quiet, not numb, just still, like my spirit had sat down to catch its breath. I didn't call Monica right away. I didn't text, I didn't slam drawers or throw nothing across the room that ain't me. I just stood in my hallway, looking at my reflection in the old mirror, same one Samuel hung when we first moved in. I looked at myself long and hard. I saw every wrinkle, every freckle, every years-old smile line that now curved into something sadder, but I didn't feel weak. I felt awake the next afternoon. I got a call from Samuel. His voice was sugar-sweet. Like nothing had happened, he said they were back in town, and so sorry we missed your big day, Miss M. Like he didn't have my number all week long. Then he said, Monica's gonna come by and bring you something nice. I didn't respond. I just said, all right, and hung up. Sure enough, Monica showed up that evening around 6. She didn't even knock, just walked in like she used to when she was a teenager. I was in the kitchen folding dish towels. I didn't even look up. Hey, Mama, she said, like she'd just come back from the store. We brought you this. She placed a white paper bag on the table. Inside was a slice of red velvet cake from some fancy bakery, wrapped like it came from a wedding, not a birthday. I looked at the cake, then I looked at her. That what you brought back from Florida? I asked. Her smile faded for a second, just a second. Then she chuckled. Oh, so you saw the photos? I saw everything. I said. The drinks, the hotel, the shirts, the bracelet on Elijah's wrist, the steak dinner, all of it on my birthday. Monica scratched her neck and shrugged. Mama, we didn't think you'd want to travel all that way. You get tired, easy. That's not what you told me. You told me it was postponed. We changed the plans last minute. She said it wasn't that deep. I stepped around the counter slowly. My voice was calm, but I could feel the heat in my chest. Used my credit card. Monica, you paid for the whole thing in my name. Her head jerked back like I'd slapped her. What, it wasn't like that? You gave me the card for emergencies. I figured you'd be fine with it. Once you saw we enjoyed ourselves, you figured. I repeated, you figured your mama, who cooked a full meal and set a table in a dress on her 72nd birthday, would be fine. Being lied to, left out, paying for her own exclusion. Monica looked annoyed now. Tensive, Mama, it was just one birthday. You've had 71 of them. My hands trembled. I gripped the edge of the table. One birthday. I said it was the first birthday I've had without your father, and I thought maybe, just maybe, you wanted to spend it with me, not run from me. She groaned and dropped into the chair like she was exhausted. You're being dramatic. I blinked, stunned. Dramatic. Yes, she snapped, it's not like. We left you with nothing. You had food. You always say you don't need much. Why is this suddenly? Some big crisis. I stepped back. My heart was pounding in my chest. I thought about how I used to hold her when she had fevers. How I skipped meals so she could eat. How I pawned my wedding ring once to pay for her braces. How I prayed every night for her safety when she was out too late. I thought about how she used to fall asleep on my lap during thunderstorms and call me her favorite person in the world. And now here she was telling me I had enough, telling me my pain was too much trouble. I sat down across from her, staring right into the eyes of the woman I raised. I'm your mother, Monica, not your wallet. She didn't say anything. I didn't cry this time, not in front of her. I just stood up again and walked over to the pantry to grab the broom. You can go, I said softly. She looked up, surprised. Mama, I need to sweep, I said, and I don't like sweeping around things that don't belong in my house. She stood slowly, and for a second she looked like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. She left without another word that night. I sat on the porch under the string lights. Samuel and I hung up years ago. I rocked back and forth in my chair with a blanket around my shoulders. I didn't cry, but I didn't smile either. I just let the cool air touch my face and listened to the cricket sing me a little mercy. I still loved my daughter, but I couldn't unsee what I saw, and I couldn't unfeel what I felt. I thought that was the end of it, that maybe we'd talk again later and smooth it out like mothers always do. But something was coming. That would make me see everything clearer, and this time I wouldn't look away. I didn't go looking for trouble. I just needed a little help. A few weeks after the argument with Monica, things were tight. Tighter than usual. I was running low on groceries, and the power bill had come in higher than I expected. I didn't panic. I'd been through worse. I just figured I'd borrow a little until my check came in. Mr. Carter, bless his heart, had told me about a retired judge who volunteered at the community center. Nora Fields said she helped older women get access to legal advice and support. She's sharp, Miss M, he said. Doesn't play games, you'll like her. I didn't want to bother nobody, but I called. She came over the next afternoon, tall woman, silver gray, twist-out sharp eyes, and a no-nonsense voice that still had kindness in it. She walked in, wearing slacks and flat shoes, carrying a canvas tote filled with folders. Miss Monroe, she said, shaking my hand firmly. You needed some assistance. Just a little guidance, I replied, motioning for her to sit. I may need to borrow a few dollars just to tide me over. I'm not behind or anything. Just a bad month. She gave me a careful look. Do you mind if I ask? Don't you have a retirement account? Any savings? I nodded. I do, but my daughter's been helping me manage it. She set her tote down. And how involved are you with that management? I hesitated. She's got the lock-in, she pays. The bills said she'd handle all the boring stuff. So I didn't have to worry. Nora leaned forward. Would you mind pulling up your online banking just so we can take a quick look, make sure everything's where it should be? I didn't want to embarrass myself, but something in her tone told me I should listen. So I opened my old laptop and let her sit beside me. Took a few tries, but I got into the account. I noticed it before she even said a word. The balance didn't look right. She scrolled through quietly, not speaking yet. I sat beside her, heart pounding, watching her face when she finally turned to me. She didn't speak like a judge. She spoke like a woman who'd seen too many stories just like mine. Miss Monroe, she said gently, your account's been drained over the past year. We're talking multiple withdrawals, thousands of dollars mostly transferred to a secondary account. I felt cold all over. That must be Monica's. She's been handling things. She tapped her finger against a line on the screen. Look at this jewelry store resort charges, electronics, even some payments labeled consulting services, but they're all routed through her personal account. Not any business account. This isn't help, this is misuse. My throat tightened. She's just been under stress. She told me things were tight. She's trying to grow something. Nora gave me a look, not cruel, not judgmental, but real, Margaret. She said, calling me by my first name for the first time, "You are not a bank, and you are not here to be bled dry," while smiling through it. I blinked, my lips trembled. "But she's my daughter, and you're her mother," she replied, "and you are worth more than how she's treating you. You raised her, you worked hard. You don't owe her everything you've got." I sat still, my hands were folded so tight, they ached. She closed the laptop gently. "You said you wanted help? I can help, but only if you're ready to stop letting your kindness be turned into a weakness." I didn't answer right away. I looked down at the kitchen tiles and thought about the years I spent wiping those same floors on my knees. Thought about how I saved every receipt. How I skipped hair appointments so Monica could have soccer cleats. How I never once let her see how scared I was when the money ran thin. I thought about how I waited on my birthday for a dinner that never came, and how the people I gave everything to used my money to toast under palm trees. "I don't want to hurt her," I whispered. "You're not." She said, "She's already hurting you." We didn't finish the conversation that day. I needed time. Nora understood. She left me her card and said to call her if anything else came up. It didn't take long because the very next week, Monica showed up at my door again, smiling. "Hey, Mama," she said, stepping in. "Got some good news. I found a house, real fixer-upper, with potential. I'm trying to put in an offer before it gets snapped up." I raised my eyebrows. "Oh," she sat at the table like it was her own. "I need 40 grand to secure the down payment." I figured, maybe you could front me part of the inheritance now, before it's too late. That was it. That was the moment. The air left my lungs. Like a punch, I looked her in the face. She didn't even flinch. She truly believed she was entitled to the life I'd built. "I don't have that kind of money," I said. She leaned back. "Sure you do. You just don't want to help." My voice was flat. "You've been helping yourself, Monica. I've seen the charges." Her expression changed. "Excuse me." "I saw the resort charges. The jewelry, the electronics. You've been draining my account." She stood up. "You went through my stuff." "No," I said calmly. "I went through mine." She scoffed. "So what, you're cutting me off now, after everything I've done for you? You mean using me?" I said, "Standing to, lying to me, leaving me home on my birthday while you drank and danced on my dime. You do this," she snapped, "you're gonna be all alone. Don't call me when you need something." I walked over to the counter, picked up Nora's card, and looked her dead in the eye. "I won't," she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there for a moment, feeling the silence settle back in. Then I picked up the phone and I called the woman who helped me see the truth. "Nora," I said, "let's get started." It didn't take long for the ripple to reach her the very same week. Nora helped me transfer my accounts, lock my credit, and revoke Monica's access. The calls started. First, it was a string of missed calls, Monica Monroe notifications. Then came the texts, short, tense: "Mama, we need to talk. Why is my card getting declined? Call me now. This is serious." I didn't answer. I didn't need to anymore. Nora said it would take a few days for all the legal paperwork to finalize, but the minute the accounts were frozen, Monica would feel it, and she did. I imagined her standing in a checkout line somewhere trying to run my card and being told it was no longer valid. I imagined her eyes narrowing, her voice rising. I imagined the panic when she realized the bank login didn't work either for the first time. In a long time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. But of course, freedom doesn't come without a knock at the door. Saturday morning around 10, I was folding laundry when I heard the heavy thud of shoes on my porch before I could even peek through the curtain. The door flew open and Monica walked in, loud and steaming. "What the hell is going on?" I stayed calm. I'd practiced this moment in my head every night since I made the call to Nora. I looked her in the eye and said, "You'll need to be more specific." She scoffed. "My business account is frozen. My bank app's locked. The credit card I was using for utilities just got shut down at the gas station. You trying to humiliate me?" "Mama, I'm trying to protect what's mine." She stepped closer. You really going to do this to your own daughter? No, I said softly. You already did it to me. Samuel walked in behind her. Then he wasn't dressed like usual. No dress shirt, no slacks, no polished shoes, just a wrinkled hoodie and a tight jaw. I told you this was going to blow up, he muttered to her, but loud enough for me to hear. Monica turned to him. Stay out of it. No, I said, cutting in. Let him speak. I'd love to hear what y'all told yourselves. While you were sipping drinks on my birthday using my own money, Samuel folded his arms and looked away. Monica didn't flinch. We needed help, Mama. The business wasn't taking off like we hoped. You always said your money was for family. My money was for emergencies. I said, stepping forward, for groceries, medicine, maybe a grandchild's college fund, not for vacations and designer handbags and dinners I never got invited to. We were going to pay it back when I asked when I'm gone after the funeral. When the house is sold. Monica's face flushed. Don't say that. Why not? I snapped, the heat rising in my chest. You've already spent like I was dead. The silence that followed was thick. She finally spoke again. Her voice, low and bitter. You've always made things harder than they need to be, and you've always made promises you never kept. I said you promised to come on my birthday. You promised we'd travel together. You promised I'd never have to feel forgotten. I could see something shift in her eyes. Then not guilt, not sorrow, just the realization that I wasn't bending this time. So what now, she asked. You're going to cut us off for good. I didn't answer her. I just walked to the drawer near the dining room, pulled out a letter, and laid it on the table. What's that, she asked. I knew. Will, I said, drawn up last week. Every penny of mine is going to a women's shelter downtown, the one that helps older women get back on their feet after being used by the people they loved most. She blinked, stunned. You're cutting me out of your will. You cut yourself out the day you looked me in the eye and saw a resource instead of a mother. Samuel was crying now, quietly. He grabbed his jacket and backed toward the door. I didn't know it went that deep, he whispered. I thought you were okay with it. Monica said you knew. I didn't say anything. Sometimes silence tells the truth better than words ever. Could he left without another word? Monica stood there a moment longer, jaw clenched, trying to think of something that might win me back. But there was nothing left to say. She finally turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard, the picture of Samuel on the shelf rattled. I went over and straightened it. Then I sat down at the table, looked at the half-folded laundry, and laughed softly to myself, not because any of it was funny, but because the sound of strength returning to your own bones can feel like joy after long silence. For years I believed my love had to look like sacrifice, that being a good mother meant giving until I had nothing left. But now I knew better. I wasn't empty. I wasn't confused. I was just done being their foundation, while they climbed over me to build castles I was never invited into. And for the first time in decades, I looked around my house and felt something strange belonged to me again. A year passed quietly, fully like spring blooming through cold soil. I won't lie. Some days were hard, the kind of hard where you sit by the window and wonder if maybe you were too harsh. Or maybe you should have picked up when they called again. But then I'd remember the ache in my chest when I saw that Key West photo, the way Monica looked me in the face and asked for an advance on my own death. The sting of sitting alone at my birthday table with a dress I ironed just for them. So no, I didn't pick up, not when Monica called 4 weeks after the accounts were locked. Not when she sent a single text with no punctuation that read, "So it's like that." Yes, it was like that. Because when I finally took control of my money, my name, my future, it felt like pulling myself out of a well I didn't know. I was drowning, and Nora helped me get everything in place. We filed the paperwork to transfer all my assets out of Monica's reach. We revoked every authorization she'd ever claimed. We reported suspicious charges, some even refunded. She also put me in touch with a financial advisor who spoke to me like a lady who understood the worth of every cent she had touched, rather than as though I was slow or simple. We then revised my will. All of my remaining funds, bonds, and property were donated to a nonprofit that provides shelter and legal assistance to elderly women who have been silenced or coerced by their relatives. Mr. Carter and Nora were the only ones I told. Indeed, Mr. Carter. Every week after things went apart. That man came to see how I was doing. Sometimes all he did was change my TV remote or bring bread on other occasions. He only sat and listened while I discussed Samuel or my past experience sewing prom gowns for half the block. He never made any requests, never thought he was deserving of anything. Therefore, I didn't set the table for ghosts. On my 73rd birthday, I made a reservation at the community center for the little room. I requested genuine cuisine, nothing extravagant: deviled eggs, fried chicken, red beans, and lemon-glazed pound cake. I looked radiant again since I was wearing a warm gold dress, and I extended an invitation to those who had truly come when I was at my lowest. The first to come was Mr. Carter, accompanied by a Bluetooth speaker playing Mahalia Jackson and 24 flowers. Next up was Nora, with her dapper clothes and that sage grin. The women from the foundation then arrived. They all wore regal attire, some with canes, some with grandkids in tow. We chuckled, we performed a dance, we shared tales and pound cake. Elijah also appeared. Indeed, Elijah. Silently, he entered, no grand entrance. He was holding a birthday card when there was a gentle tap on the door. Nothing, not even design, was on him, not a single new bracelet, no flawless hair. He seemed anxious. "Grandma," he remarked as he stood at the entrance. I had no idea what they were doing. "Actually, I didn't. You didn't want to travel, according to Mama. You were too worn out." I trusted her. However, I later saw the receipts and the reality. "I'm so sorry." I gave him a glance. My lone grandson used to be my tiny kitchen assistant, standing on a stool and using both hands to mix grits. "It hurt, baby," I murmured, nodding slowly. "Yes, it did." He took a step forward. "Am I allowed to stay?" I took a while to respond. I then produced a plate, gave it to him, and said, "Go ahead before Nora consumes it. Get you a piece of that pound cake." He entered the circle with a weak but appreciative grin, but I didn't give him a hug, not quite yet. He would need to earn that back. Mr. Carter volunteered to take me home at the end of the night, as the sun began to set over the roofs. I sat in the front seat with the flowers in my lap. "Is today better than last year?" he inquired, glancing at me. "It wasn't better," I said, as I peered out the window. I owned it. I spent a lot of time standing on the porch. Once we arrived home, the cold, soft breeze felt like a boon when it brushed over my skin. I considered how far I had come as I gazed out at the street. After that, I went inside, got into my robe, and brewed some tea. I kept my eyes off my phone. I didn't look for a text from Monica. I simply sat by myself at my kitchen table and grinned. Not because I was content, because I was complete. I loved them. I'm calming myself now. Dear friend, if you're still here with me, I want you to remember this. The sharpest lessons life teaches us often come wrapped in heartbreak. When those we love disappoint us, it's easy to let bitterness take root. But as the Stoics remind us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The real freedom is learning that while we can't control others, we can always control how we rise after we fall. Your value was never tied to those who took you for granted. Your worth doesn't shrink because someone else failed to see it. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stand tall in our own quiet strength, even when the world around us tries to convince us we're small. Choose peace over resentment. Choose self-respect over pleasing others. And never forget, you are enough, just as you are. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us of our strength.